Powered by Riverside FM.
All right, guys, please help me welcome former Browns DT, our official defensive correspondent and dear friend of the show, John Hughes. John.
How are you? Doing pretty good, man. Can't complain. Getting ready for the holidays with the kids and still got the barbershop going on, a lot of stuff, so.
Absolutely. Any big plans for the holidays coming up?
Building traditions, man. As the kids are, younger, we're trying to, incorporate things that we did, as kids growing up between me and my wife, and then adding new kind of traditions to build with them over the years. So we always do light shows and different things like that. So we'll go driving around doing like different light shows and things like that. So,
are you a live tree guy or a fake tree guy?
Man, I am actually a fake tree guy, and that's from my mom, man. I grew up with a fake tree, but it was our tradition to build the fake tree from, branch by branch and then put the decorations on. So it was his own tradition by itself.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm fake tree too. We grew up real tree, and I just the maintenance that went into it is making sure it's watered, and it was like a job for the kids, and we all hated it because we're like, it's just another chore, and it never got done. And then by the end of the thing, there's pine needles everywhere, and it was a whole mess.
But it smells like Christmas.
It does smell like Christmas, but there's candles for that.
Yeah, I heard those horror stories from a lot of people with real trees. So I feel like I'm good with my fake one.
Yeah, me too. Like I said, there's candles for that. There's different Christmas scents you can get. So
right.
But let's just go ahead and get right into it, John. Let's talk about the Browns. Since Jameis has taken over, it feels like the offense has finally been, putting up some numbers, moving the ball a little bit. However, on the defensive side, the struggles seem to be back with a vengeance. Can you kind of tell us what you're seeing with the defense these last few weeks?
Yeah, just overall, man. And I think Jameis had said it in a quote after the game, but it wasn't the Steelers that beat the Browns; it was the Browns that beat the Browns. So it's literally executing on all three levels, right? Offense, defense, special teams. And I know it sounds so redundant, but it takes more than just the offense to be doing their thing, and then defense falling off, or vice versa, right? It has to be all three on the same page, and unfortunately, that's kind of been the story over the few games.
How big a loss is just not having GOK around, do you think, contributed to that?
Oh, I bet it. I mean, I know it's huge, man. Especially, you think about these guys in the locker room. Can only imagine what type of leader he was, So I'm sure he's in the locker room still, but just to have him on that field as, that field presence, and that leader, captain type of guy. So it's, I'm sure it was a huge blow for the defense.
Yeah, I can only imagine a guy like that is never easy to replace. So, with the season basically being over at this point, they were unfortunately eliminated from playoff contention officially this week. So what changes do you foresee on the defense kind of coming up in the offseason?
So I mean, kind of taking a step back and just thinking about the rest of this year. I've unfortunately been in this situation in Cleveland a few times, being, out of the playoffs with, still a month to go. And really, hoping guys still playing their best ball, right? Because at this point, it's, guys have different kind of mindsets. They think about more job security, right? Coaches and players the same. So, guys is still trying to get better and still put out their best tape at this point. But as far as defense going into next year, I feel like there's a couple different pieces, but I feel like there's a lot to build on. And I think we have to be able to appreciate that we have a defense that we can build on. A lot of guys have, a lot of teams start from scratch or, whatnot. But for us, I think we just have to find a couple more pieces and figure things out.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned a big one, like it's up in the air whether or not JOK is even going to be able to play again. So we may very well have a huge hole at linebacker. We already were kind of thin at linebacker, but it may be even bigger after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of in that same vein with offseason moves, those types of things. A big name that has started coming up recently is Myles Garrett. Do you think there's any chance they shop him for draft capital?
Man, I hope not. But it just depends on where the GM and everyone's at as far as what they're thinking. I think that would be a huge blow, not only to the team, but more so, just the city of Cleveland, right? You think about, Miles, you think about Nick Chubb, you think about these staples on the team, and to lose a piece like that, could, shake up a lot of different things.
What, if they were to entertain it, do you know, in your opinion, what would it take?
What's he worth?
To actually trade him away as far as picks?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a once in a generation talent. You know what I mean? I think he's, got that skill set. It's kind of hard to put a price on that. But I would say it's got to be a few first rounders, at least first 2 rounds, first couple rounds. So maybe 1 and a 2, 2 1s and a 2. But it's got to be worth it if they do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we totally agree with you. We've said kind of all season long, we don't, especially as the season has taken a turn and kind of gone in a tailspin, we've said we don't want Myles to be traded. But at the same time, if you're trying to rebuild a team and from a place where we're at right now, I mean, draft capital is worth a lot.
Well, it's one of those things where as fans, you get endeared to kind of all these players and you want everybody to stay, but the reality is you're 3-10. So where do we go from here? But I mean, certainly we don't want to see Myles moved, but certainly in the rumor mill.
Yeah, you think about guys, like Myles, and he's in. I'm not even sure what year he's in. I know he's getting up there now, but for a guy that's been so committed to Cleveland, you and a part of you still wants that for him too. You know what I mean? Like you still want him to have that part of his career where he gets to the Super Bowl, does those things, and as we rebuild, we hopefully we get there, but you want him to have a end of his career kind of a bang too.
Yeah. Obviously, we had the Steelers almost back to back there, so we had some little bit of foaming at the mouth between T.J. Watt and Myles. Do you have any thoughts just on just the conversation that was going on there? Who's better, defensive player of the year, that whole thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, I honestly, I love the competitiveness, especially having two of the best ends in the league in the same division. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, but obviously, I'll go with Myles every day. So
I liked that after that first game, his post, he didn't show up as much the second game, but I liked the post-game press conference from Myles after the first game against the Steelers when he was kind of like, they could talk all they want, but people guard me different, and I'm the best player on defense in this league, the best pass rusher there is, and everything runs through me. Because I like that so much because you don't get that out of Myles Garrett very often. He's very, I put my head down, I go to work, I do my thing, and my play will speak for itself, but it felt good just seeing a moment where Myles accepted it and he said, "Look, I know how good I am."
Yeah.
So it was awesome to see.
It kind of reminds you of I think you remember when LeBron was in this press conference. He's like, "I'm the best player in the world." You know what I mean? It's just like you love to see the player that is it to accept it. You know what I mean? And obviously there's a difference between cocky and confident. So.
Yeah. And since then he hasn't, he's gone back to normal Myles Garrett. He just puts his head down and he works and you don't hear it again. And it is what it is. So, again, don't want him to go, but, like you said, I'm thinking if somebody's offering 2 first rounders, it's going to be really hard to turn down. So,
yeah. John, I know you read up Nick Chubb as well. I think he's on an expiring contract this year. Do you think there's enough goodwill just with the fan base and just the fact that fans would want him back, that this front office is going to do something to retain him in the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you said, the fans and the upper organization as well love Nick Chubb, and it's one of these things like we kind of knew going into this year. We wanted to see him play, period, this year, right? And obviously he's not putting up the numbers that he's put in past years. So it's really what the upper management thinks, moving into next year, what they want to do, and if they have the confidence that he's going to get back to that prime Nick Chubb.
Yeah, for sure. And we all want him to so bad because there's, in my opinion, as a Browns fan, and sorry, John, but Nick Chubb is my favorite Cleveland Brown of all time. He just embodies the city so well. Second, of course, is John Hughes.
Yeah, John.
I'll take Nick.
Yeah. So he just everything about him is exactly. It's just the Cleveland Browns. Yeah. He is the Cleveland Browns.
Hardworking, blue collar, just tough it out.
And so I would love to see them at least try and do right by him. And obviously we all know it's a business. You can't go out there and vastly overpay for him, but at least give him enough to where it makes him think like, okay, maybe I should finish my career here. You guys took care of me well enough that maybe that's what I do. So we'll see. But let's get into this week's game. This week, the Browns, obviously, they've got Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. It's a tall task for the defense and the offense for that, because now they have a top 10 defense, which they haven't always had. So what are kind of the keys to success this week, especially on defense, that you see for the Browns?
On defense, I think, we've said it before, and it's always kind of my staple being the run stopping type of defensive lineman. But, you have to control the run first, right? You have to have them earn the right to pass. But with Patrick Mahomes, just being able to contain him, right? He gets out of the pocket and he makes plays and he, does what he does. So just containing Mahomes and just getting off the field. And I've said it before, but getting off the field on third down is crucial. Extending drives just takes time away from your offense to be able to get out on the field, and wears your defense out. You know what I mean? You got to play complementary ball. So
obviously, there's a familiar face in that Kansas City backfield with Kareem Hunt. Do you put any stock in that, just as a former player, just that there's any kind of advantage there, just kind of knowing, Kareem, his running style more personally, just because he played here for a number of years, or is it just really doesn't matter because it's a whole new offense and a new system, and you're just prepping for the week as it goes by?
Yeah, I feel like it's the same prep. I've played backs that I've played with during the year, but obviously you have to go against a different O-line, but you know what I mean? So it's all about prepping really for the offensive line and understanding formations. But on looking at it from Kareem's side, it's always fun playing your old team. You know what I mean? So you have a little bit extra pep in your step throughout that week, and so.
Yeah, for sure. So do you have a score prediction this week? Are the Browns going to be able to do it? Are they going to pull the upset? What do you think?
So for me, I feel like it's going to be a close one. And I say that just because you feel like KC's going to come into Cleveland, obviously seeing our record and before they step on the field and feeling like, like we've already talked about, they've clinched the playoffs. So for them, they're kind of in maintenance mode almost, not, trying to get to the end of the year, healthy and strong. But for us, we got to be, in a sense, party crashers, right? They're already making the playoffs, but, trying to get that extra win at the end of the season to, cap off, what, has been an unfortunate year. So.
Yeah, and I mean, if nothing else, maybe we affect the seating, right?
Yeah. I mean, whatever it is, right? But I just think about being, being the guy in the locker room, right? You're really trying to put your best tape out there right now because, unfortunately, being on a team like this year, you're playing for next year pretty much already this year. So being able to play your best ball and get it done
for sure.
So we're talking about predictions, right?
Yeah. Well, do you have a score prediction?
Yeah, let me think of the score.
It just now hit me like he tried to dodge the whole score thing. He went with.
Let me slide for a second.
We never let you slide.
Let's go. 24-21 Browns.
Wow.
He's got faith in Dustin Hopkins.
We got two guests this week. Yeah, you do have faith in Dustin Hopkins. That's impressive. We've got two guests this week that have the Browns in a close one. This is
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I love the optimism. I really do. I wish that at this point in the season I had more of your optimism, John. I honestly wish that I had it, but I don't. It's been really hard this year,
Believe me,
especially because of the expectations coming in. So
yeah, well, I mean, honestly, playing in Cleveland for the 5 years that I did, and unfortunately being in this situation, like this was my mentality, right? You go into every game thinking, you're trying to put your best film out there, you're trying to play your best ball. I mean, I remember when I had was up for my second contract, and I was out for like the last 8 games almost of the year, and I got to play in the very last game against the Ravens, and I was just playing lights out just because I knew that was like my shot for my next contract. And guys almost, treating this like, even if they're not on contract, right, treating it like their job is at stake just because, you never know if it is or not.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something I think that gets overlooked by fans, is the fact that they just look at it and we all say, well, the Browns are having a disappointing year. They're 3-10. They're eliminated from the playoffs. They're just going to roll over and quit. But
it's their job.
To your point, this is their livelihood. This is what they do. And not everybody out there is a Myles Garrett. So not everybody out there has that kind of contract where they're not playing for a job, because Myles Garrett, let's be honest, like even if they did trade, like he's going to get another big extension from somebody, he's going to be just fine. But there's plenty of guys out there that are playing for a lot more than that. So
yeah, most definitely.
Got to dig deep and find that why.
Yep. So
I think we're wrapping up here, but I got one just random question, John, just something that I've always kind of thought in my mind that I was curious about.
I don't know where we're going.
It's not bad.
That's a great start.
I hear all the time, you're watching like Hard Knocks or some of these documentaries of the quarterbacks and stuff, and you hear the cadence of plays being called in an offensive huddle a lot. And it's these kind of like mouthfuls of word vomit that go out. And I know that you got to call out your protection, you're calling out your routes and your backs and everything else. So in a defensive huddle, is the vernacular is verbose in a defensive huddle for like a play call? Like, do you have an example of just a play call that you guys ran when you were with the Browns or with any team? Just like what does a defensive play call sound like in a huddle?
Let's see. It really depends on the team. But usually, you have your front, your coverage, and a blitz attached to it. So you're looking at, let's see. That's funny. I can't think of one off the top of my head. If you gave me a second, I probably would. But it's always at least.
I just was curious.
You're always doing this.
It's at least 4 to 5 words with a coverage behind it. You know what I mean? But like I said, it's and that's the thing too. If you have defensive stunts inside of it, so like they'll add like an X or a text or whatever it is, whatever the defensive line calls are. But you'll have about 4 or 5 different words. But honestly, it's funny because like when you hear all these them saying all these different things, there's like, so say the offensive line's listening, right? They're only listening for like maybe the first 2 things, and then everything else doesn't matter to them, right? Or if they're the receiver, they're listening. They don't care about the front, right? They're thinking about like the last maybe 4 or 5 or last 2 or 3 parts of the cadence. So the quarterback's really the one that has a hard job that has to, or the linebacker that has to say the call, but everybody's like trying to key into that one specific part they need.
Yeah, to that point, I just remember back to not that I was anywhere near your level, John, but I just remember back to college and like when they'd make the play call on defense, and when they said robber, I was like, okay, I know exactly what we're doing now. So
right, like you can walk away at that point and still run the play.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter after that. So
I was just curious. I appreciate you taking us behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Well, hey, John. Here's to some of your optimism bleeding over onto us and onto the Browns themselves.
It's Christmas time.
Yeah, let Christmas come early. We want to win against the Chiefs. Nobody likes the Chiefs. Let's be honest. Like, unless you're in Kansas City, nobody likes the Chiefs anymore. So, although I do know you have a tie to you have a tie to a friend over there, but that's a whole other subject. But
I was going to say they look at the Kansas City like they did in New England when I was like growing up and through my time in the league.
Yeah, we all hate them.
Yeah, my point.
They hate us because they ain't us. That's what they say. But no, hey, John, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Hope to have you on again soon. Maybe next week. Did you know that next week is our 100th episode, John?
The big 100? That's what's up.
100.
Nice. Awesome.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So I may be in touch this week. We may be in search of some guests. So
Okay.
might have you back.
Sure,
all right. Again, John, thanks so much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
I appreciate you guys, man. Thanks.